This video unpacks the FTCE Exceptional Student Education K-12 exam. Today we'll cover three things: what content will be covered on the test and how to study for it, the most likely concepts or themes you'll see on the exam, and a few practice questions to test your skills. The FTCE Exceptional Student Education exam is broken down into 6 skills or competencies. For our full study guide, click the link right here or the one in the description. More information about that at the end of this video. Let's start with our largest section, Competency I, Foundations. This competency deals with the foundations of exceptional student education. Probably could have guessed that from the name, huh? Imagine a class of exceptional students, all with unique strengths, goals, and academic levels. Now imagine it's your job to make sure they all succeed and grow as learners. This competency covers some of the most foundational skills that will help you achieve that goal. A vital skill here is understanding how IDEA, or the Individuals with Disabilities Act, categorizes disabilities. There are 13 categories of disabilities defined by the IDEA. Let's look into each category and definition. First, developmental delay. That's a delayed progression in expected growth without another diagnosis. Second, specific learning disability, or SLD. That's an umbrella term that refers to any learning challenge that affects a student's ability to reason, listen, speak, read, write, or do math outside of a larger disability or disorder. Third, intellectual disability refers to a below average intellectual ability that may involve challenges with communication, social skills, and self-care. Fourth is other health impairment, or OHI. This again is an umbrella term for conditions that impact a student's energy, strength, or alertness in the classroom. Fifth is autism spectrum disorder, or ASD. A developmental disability that involves a range of symptoms involving social and communication skills. Next is emotional disturbance, which covers various mental health issues that impact students' behavior and ability to access classroom learning. Then there's orthopedic impairment, which is a lack of ability or function within the body. Then we have speech or language impairment, which covers a variety of struggles with verbal communication. Next is visual impairment, including blindness or eyesight difficulties that cannot be fully corrected with lenses. After that, hearing impairment or hearing loss that does not qualify as deafness. Of course, there is also deafness, meaning even with a hearing aid, these students cannot hear all or most sounds. Finally, there is a deaf blindness classification, which applies to students who have unique communication needs due to having both severe hearing and vision loss. And lastly, traumatic brain injury, or TBI, which is an injury to the brain caused by an accident or physical trauma. Now, a lot of questions in this exam will include practical applications or scenarios. So knowing how the above classifications of disability will manifest in the classroom, some typical characteristics, and some common accommodations of each disability is a must. If you want to explore this further, 240's materials will help. We provide examples in the study material and practice questions to test your knowledge. Nice work. Class is in session now. Let's slide over to Competency II, Assessment Design. This is all about the different types of assessments in the context of students with exceptionalities. This includes legal and ethical principles, including accommodations for different types of assessment. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, mandates IEPs for all students receiving special education services. In public school, exceptional students may have a specific plan to help the school best meet their needs. This plan is called an Individualized Education Program, or IEP for short. Teachers should plan lessons that help students make progress toward the goals outlined in their IEPs. That means teachers must follow the IEP's guidance for modifications and accommodations for the student. Let's define those terms. Modifications to the curriculum change what the child is taught. Accommodations change how it is taught. Let's take a look at some examples of accommodations. Presentation accommodations allow students to access information in ways other than reading standard print without changing the content that's being presented. Response accommodations allow students to complete assignments in different ways. For example, by using assistive technology to complete a writing assignment. Setting accommodations change the location or conditions of the testing environment. This is typically done in order to reduce distractions for the student or other students. Time or scheduling accommodations increase the length of time designated to complete an assignment or alter the way time is organized. When you read a question that asks you to choose an appropriate accommodation, they will often slip in an answer choice that is actually a modification. So even if the answer choice seems appropriate, make sure you can quickly recognize the difference between accommodations and modifications. Another competency bites the dust. Nice. Class isn't done yet, though. Before our learners zone out, let's look at Competency III instruction. Picture this. The lesson plans for your class are complete, and it is time to teach. This competency dives into evidence-based instructional practices and interventions you might want to use in your future classroom. Now, there are many effective ways teachers can meet the needs of all learners. Let's take a look at a couple of common strategies that may come up on your exam. Flexible grouping is an important tool for teachers to have in their tool belts. Flexible grouping is a fluid grouping strategy based on students' needs. The general idea is that groups are formed based on a common goal and stay together for however long is needed to reach the goal, rather than staying together for the length of a whole unit. A think, pair, share is an example of an instructional activity that provides students the opportunity to learn from each other and solidify their learning by putting concepts into their own words. First, the teacher delivers instruction and poses a question in a whole group or small group setting. They provide time for students to think individually. Then, students pair up and discuss the question with a partner. This is beneficial for all students, but especially helps those with specific challenges, such as language or processing disorders. Low-stakes opportunities to practice can help students feel prepared and more confident to speak in front of the group. Once students have discussed with their partners, they have the opportunity to share with the whole class. This can also provide an opportunity for informal assessment by allowing the teacher to catch misconceptions and quickly address them. When planning flexible groups, teachers should keep IEP goals in mind. For example, if multiple students have reading comprehension goals, it might make sense for them to work together in the same flexible group. Wow, look at the time. Class is halfway done. Next up, Competency IV, behavior. In your classroom, chances are you'll need to address behavior challenges. This skill set centers on common positive behavioral interventions and supports. Historically, discipline programs have often included zero-tolerance policies and harsh consequences. However, these programs have been found to be ineffective, and they often disproportionately target exceptional student populations. These systems help students reflect, accept accountability, and take action to change. Nowadays, schools are focusing on building positive behaviors rather than just punishing negative ones. Many schools are implementing the research-based Positive Behavioral Intervention and Support, or PBIS, system, which hinges on positive reinforcement of desired behaviors and creating classroom and school environments that encourage and support the desired behaviors. This competency also covers legal protections for ESE students. Let's take a look at how constitutional protections apply in schools. You'll notice that these apply a bit differently than they do for adults outside of school. In schools, the First Amendment protects students' rights to free speech as long as they act peacefully and abide by school rules. The Fifth and 14th Amendments protect life, liberty, and property without due process. Therefore, the administration cannot infringe on a student's rights without first providing an opportunity for due process. This includes needing reasonable suspicion to search a student's property, like their car or backpack. Here's an example of due process. A group of students is accused of physically bullying another student. The principal brings in the students in question to hear all sides of the story and reviews hallway camera footage before making a decision on the disciplinary action for the students in question. If the student has an IEP and a change of placement will occur, a manifestation determination review must be held to determine whether there is a relationship between the student's misbehavior and their disability. Whew, another skill down. Let's keep this class rolling. Competency V, literacies and communication skills. This section not only tests your knowledge of language development skills and the components of language structure, think foundations, communications, and vocabulary, but also your ability to facilitate communication and reading proficiency for students with exceptionalities. Let's hop back to IEPs. Each IEP will specify the strengths and challenges the student has in each content area and with each key academic skill, and specify accommodations and required modifications to allow students to access the curriculum. An IEP may include modifications to the general education curriculum, accommodations, or both. Flashback. Take another look at these definitions to make sure you've got them down. Let's take a look at an example of modification in action. A middle school student with an intellectual disability may have modifications to their science curriculum, stating they will learn 5 body systems rather than 13, and identify 1 main organ in those 5 rather than 2 to 3 organs per system. Those are changes to what the individual student is learning as compared to the general education curriculum. Now let's take a look at an example of accommodations in action. A student who qualifies for special education services and has reading challenges may not have any modifications, but they may need accommodations. This could be something like using an audiobook instead of a physical text. They will learn the same general education curriculum, but will be allowed tools to help them access it given their disability. Whew, this class is getting close to the end. I think I'm ready for lunch. But first, our last competency, transition processes. This section examines how you'll determine planning strategies for students' transitions out of high school and on to their next steps, like college, technical schools, group housing, or the workforce. The goal of special education is to help a child become an independent, contributing member of society after graduating from school. This requires social, life, and communication skills. Let's define some terms to help with this. In order to help students discover and select careers, teams can complete a functional vocational assessment. This is an ongoing process of record keeping to note a student's interests and strengths. This also takes the student's stated areas of interest into account. Collaboration with the community is also a key part of the transition process in many cases. The ESE teacher must understand when and how to provide opportunities for community-based instruction, or CBI. CBI targets social interaction and reinforcement of academic skills in community settings, such as the local grocery store or department store. CBIs provide opportunities to apply academic and social skills, reinforce problem-solving strategies, and address individual learning objectives. Check out these examples of CBI. Sheltered employment refers to vocational activities that separate individuals with disabilities from other employees. Supported employment allows individuals with even potentially severe disabilities to enter employment by providing individualized support with job matching, ongoing support services, and long-term support. Job shadowing involves observing someone doing their job at their workplace. A work-study program is typically implemented at college or university and allows a student to work while attending college part-time or full-time. And finally, apprenticeship, which is an arrangement that allows for an individual to learn a skill or trade under the direct supervision of another employee. Hear that? It's the bell. Now, class may be over, but there's still one step left before we head home for the day. We're going to try out 6 practice questions. These will test your knowledge and get you ready to ace your FTCE Exceptional Student Education exam. First up, which of the following characteristics may be used to describe a student who is identified as having a specific learning disability? All of these answers define exceptional students, but only one relates to a specific learning disability. And that answer is B. Students with specific learning disabilities typically have average to above average intelligence, but experience academic achievement deficits. Next up, Aaron is a 7th grade student with a specific learning disability. Aaron's reading comprehension and math reasoning skills are on grade level. Aaron's math calculation skills are below grade level. He's taking a math test which includes word problems. Which of the following accommodations would be most appropriate? The answer is A. Since Aaron struggles with math calculations, this accommodation would be the most appropriate. For a reading activity, an inclusion teacher has guided most of the class through a during reading activity, while some students work independently and other students are assigned to partners. What type of strategy is the teacher using with the class? Think you know the answer? Great. The correct choice is D. The teacher is using flexible grouping by assessing whole group, small group, partner, and independent work according to the student's needs. Great job. We are halfway there. A student with an individualized education plan, or an IEP, has been assigned an expulsion for 14 days for his discipline infraction. Which additional steps should be taken due to this short-term removal from school? There's a special step for IEP students when it comes to disciplinary action. And that step is A. The administration must take the additional step of holding a manifestation determination review to decide if there's a relationship between the student's misbehavior and their disability. Mrs. Fields is creating a lesson plan for her 3rd grade inclusion class. Which of the following should Mrs. Fields include in the lesson plan to ensure that all students receive quality instruction? This question relates to accommodations and modifications. And the right answer is C. This is the best answer since students are provided with the general instruction. Also, students that need additional instruction or modifications to the general instruction are accounted for with the provision of additional time. Last one. Which of the following strategies would be most effective for assimilating and training a student with a disability to be a product stocker at the school snack shop? This one's all about the transition process. And all of these answers may be helpful, but only one is the top choice. A. Learning through mentoring and modeling is the most effective way for students with disabilities to effectively learn new skills. And with that, our FTCE Exceptional Student Education School Day is over. I'm ready for a nice long weekend. Congratulations on finishing the video. If you found it helpful, give it a like. There is still plenty more to learn. Did you know that our study guide has hundreds of practice questions? If you really want to make sure you're prepared for the FTCE Exceptional Student Education exam, take the next step and subscribe to the 240 Study Guide. It has hours of videos so you can watch and or listen while doing chores. It is test aligned so you know precisely what you need to study. And it has hundreds of practice questions so you can be sure you're ready. And it has the money back guarantee. So click the link below right now to get started.